I honestly have issues with men in general being drafted. Like I don't.
What do you mean?
I do think that there's an argument that it's taking away like their bodily autonomy.
Well, yeah, but the thing is governments and nations are not going to relinquish their right to force its citizenry into a military conflict if needed. So, given the reality that men do have to register with selective service, should women equally have to register too?
No, I don't think so at the end of the day. And I mean, I guess that's an example of something that I do think is different. I think when I'm talking about equal rights, I'm talking about just generalized.
I mean, we can talk about...
And that creates privilege in society now. Now you're creating privilege for women. So
no, I think men and women are different. I think men and women...
I agree. Men and women are different. You're getting a privileged role. You don't have to go fight no wars and get drafted. What do men get? What do we get in exchange for that?
Well, women are considered the crown.
Let her answer.
Well, I think honor, first of all. I think that's a huge thing, that men are honored for fighting the war.
By who? Other men or women?
Because
in this case, you get an elevated position. Men get to be honored for the position of dying on your behalf. Well, that's fantastic. What a great deal for us.
No, I think that it's different in that aspect. So again, maybe not. Sorry, I said equal. I'm talking equal as in our basic constitutional rights. But no, I do think men and women are different. So I'm not a feminist in that.
So then wouldn't it be a violation of our basic constitutional rights to have a draft? It can't be, right? Because Congress can definitely call up the militia when they need to.
Right.
They do.
Yeah, that's true. I go back and forth on that. I don't necessarily oppose the draft. I do have concerns about it. I do.
You had something, Abigail? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious if you're against the patriarchal system or if you're for it.
And what aspects? Like what specifics?
I mean...
all aspects.
Yeah, all aspects. Just are you against the patriarchy,
government,
men leading the society?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely not. No, I think men are made by God typically to be leaders. Absolutely.
Okay.
Not that women can't be leaders in some aspects, but typically not the same way.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I guess something
Unless
that.
They're in a
Wait. Hold on.
Why you're moving, right? Then they can't be leaders. then it's like their leadership's a little too much.
No, you're good, Lauren.
They don't want to justify. Go ahead, Brian.
So it's interesting, though. I think most women don't have any qualms with the current status quo of, okay, men, they're the only ones that get drafted. They're the ones that fight the wars. They're the ones that overwhelmingly die. And there's really doesn't seem to be much of a social movement against forced military conscription of men by women. Most women are just like, yeah, I don't want to go to war. Men should be like, yeah, in some sort of... Here, let me ask you a question. You said that men should not be drafted.
Well, I'm not necessarily... I have concerns about it.
What are your...
I think it is... I mean, forcing people to fight for a country can be a little bit against their bodily autonomy, but no, I do think it is sometimes necessary. It's not great. I don't like that we're dragging people that don't want to be there.
Yes, I agree with you. It's bad.
Yeah, it's sometimes necessary,
war bad.
though.
Well, here's the scenario.
War bad.
Yeah, war bad. Here's the scenario I would present to you is, so let's say there's an invading country. Let's say it doesn't even need to be a specific one. It's just a hypothetical. I don't know, Kazakhstan. They're become a military superpower or some shit, and they're going to invade the country. And they are. Here's their policy: if they successfully invade the country, they're going to kill all the fighting age males in that country who aren't even in the military, and then they're going to take all the women in the country as war brides. Do you think then you should compel men? And here's the scenario. If you don't compel men to, you force them to join the military, to be part of the military, then you know definitively that you will lose this war against Kazakhstan. And they're going to grape all the women and kill all the men. Do you think then that it would then warrant forcing men so that the women don't get raped and all the men don't die anyways, to then fight. And if you do fight, then you have a 50% chance of winning versus just you will lose if you don't do this.
Absolutely. That's why I'm saying I have
Okay.
concerns about it, but I do think it's sometimes
Right.
something that's necessary.
Right. So but I mean, that's the whole idea of, okay, well, there are some circumstances in which, and look, there's been drafts where, like Vietnam War, shouldn't have been in that conflict to begin with. That's a whole nother conversation. Some drafts are not for like the lifeblood protection of the nation. But there are some that are. And so in this instance, it's like, okay, well, you would do that, right? So I don't know, it seems, but why not then compel women?
I think men have a biological advantage, and that's why we do draft men, because they're typically physically stronger. But no, I think that's why. But no, I think in general, I'm not necessarily opposed to draft. I just do have concern. I mean, I don't think anyone here thinks, oh, it's great, it's fantastic that we're forcing people to fight. No, it's a necessary thing that isn't great.
But what do men get for that sole burden and duty being placed on them?
Well, it's not like women are just sitting back
Yeah.
at home, or they
What do you
shouldn't
mean?
be.
What do you mean?
Like they're still doing things to support men. They should be.
Yeah, but from the government down, what is the government compelling by force women to do in wartime? Nothing.
Yeah, and I honestly, I think that it's because men have a physical advantage. But no, I agree. It's different in that way.
Do you think that women that volunteer, I volunteer as tribute, that instead of a man that has a family, a woman that volunteers and is like, well, I have nothing going on for me, so I'll just join the military. Do you think that she could just get an honorable, status or something, once the war's over, once she completes her mission? Would that be something, I guess, applicable for that?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, so pretty much.
It's a total non sequitur, but okay, what's your question?
Oh, well, pretty much, if let's say there's a man with a family and he gets drafted and this woman's like, hey, this guy's got a whole family going on. I have nothing to do. I'm a single woman. I might as well just go anyways. And I'm an able-bodied woman. If she took his place, would she get an honorable, or could she get an honorable, something?
The Medal of Honor?
I don't know, something. Yeah,
sure. I guess if she...
Would that give an incentive for more women to do it? But then again, why wouldn't the guy?
Women can volunteer for the military.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't...
One of the problems with egalitarianism, which is that you end up taking patriarchal systems and then lowering the standards so that women can participate.
Oh,
and that's exactly what happened in the military. It's exactly what happened in the police force. It's exactly what's happened across the board when it comes to any of the protectorate roles in society. Mm-hmm. Guess how many Navy SEALs are women?
I don't know how many.
0.
Oh, well,
Zero.
okay, really?
And it's not because they can't be. In fact, they've been trying to get one to be for years and years and years. And they can't pass the training. They can't do it. They can't pass basic underwater demolition training. They're physically unable to accomplish this. The ones who are, I did some research on the ones who were Green Berets. I didn't think there was any who were Green Berets. There is actually a few who are, but it turns out those were just political appointments ultimately. And they lowered the standards so that those women could pass as well. In fact, the very first female Green Beret, 2 months after she completed her training, ended up getting arrested and going to jail because she discharged her own firearm negligently in her own house, right? That's how, these are special forces, right? This is the lowering of standards and the deconstruction of patriarchal systems. And the military has to necessarily be a patriarchal system. There's no choice. You rely 100% on men for defense. Here, let me give a counter question. I'll start with the gal in red. She has a lot of political knowledge. I'm not trying to pick on her. She just happens to be able to debate a bit because she has some political knowledge. So what happens? What do you think happens if men stop their role of defending women in the country? What happens? What happens to the country?
It would probably...
That'd be you, Chair 3.
Oh, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Ask your question again. I thought you were asking.
Yeah. What do you think happens to women and children in the nation if men stop defending the country? What happens?
Yeah, I mean, they would be negatively impacted.
Well, they would be destroyed, right?
Yeah.
They would be carried off as war brides.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's why I think it's necessary. Unfortunately, it's just unfortunate.
I agree. It's necessary. So then Brian's question, which has gone unanswered time and time and time again, what the fuck did men get out of that? What are we getting out of this? And that's what Brian wants to know ultimately, right? He's like, what do I get for the fact that right this second, and this is the truth, this is the God's honest truth, right this second, if war breaks out with China tomorrow, we do not have a large enough mass armed forces to deal with it for a prolonged period of time. The government can easily turn to conscription. Not saying they would, but they easily could. Brian, right? If you need men, especially, it doesn't even matter if they have physical ailments, they're going to draft your ass, and that's going to be that. He's eligible for the draft. They don't give a shit about his studio. They don't care about what he's got going on in life. They don't care if he's got millions of dollars in the bank or not. They don't give a shit about any of that. They're going to drag his ass up and hand him a rifle, and off to war he goes. So because that can happen to him, it can't happen to any of you. It cannot happen. What does he get?
Well,
What does he get?
he
in
gets his
exchange?
own personal freedom, for one, and secondly, women are
He
viewed.
gets his own personal freedom taken.
Erroneous!
No.
Erroneous!
Wait, what? What? Go ahead. Wait, explain the personal freedom thing.
No, so by going to war and fighting for yourself, you're fighting for your own personal freedom and the freedom of others, and that's something that we
Yeah,
should-
but women would get that too. What does the man get?
Nothing.
What I'm trying to say is women are considered in Christianity to be the crown and stuff. You get a crown, I guess you can say.
I mean, look, you got to make a secular argument on this because
Crowns are for
there's
kings.
countries that are
Crowns for
secular that
kings, not for
draft.
the submitted. Crowns are for the king, not for the submitted.
Yes, that's what
The
I'm.
thing is that yeah, you get a crown, but unfortunately, heavy is the head that wears the actual crown.
That's what
In
I'm-
this particular
yeah.
case, it's going to be the man who's in charge of the family. It's like what do the men get socially and societally? For the fact that they have a social obligation to defend all of the women in society. What are they getting for that?
Hopefully, they would get a submissive wife.
Well, they don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't
So
even get a
that's-
country where they can reproduce. They have women who are enfranchised with voting who vote. So, like here, let me give you some more arguments here. Women are the deciding vote on almost all degeneracy in society. Anything that you would consider, from a Christian perspective, to be a degenerate action, be it LGBTQ, gay marriage, all of this, women are always the deciding vote, which are the positive for those effects every single time.
Yes.
The trans phenomenon right now wouldn't even exist inside the United States absent women enfranchised voting, period. That is actually the case. You can look at a map of political distribution. You can see it for yourself. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
No.
On top of all of that, here's the other major issue that you have. Because this is the case, and men are expected to protect women in the electorate, but women can send them off to war that they themselves don't have to fight via their vote. That's a fundamental unfairness which exists in society. Fundamental unfairness.
That's why I agree with you on the fact that only married households should be able to vote. I'm saying currently it is unfair. Men do not have an advantage, but they do get an advantage if they uphold Christian values, and the country is predominantly Christian.
No,
It's
I would
not.
say the
Oh, it
country
used to be.
is no
It
longer
used to be.
predominantly Christian.
It used to be.
I would say that the majority of people do identify that way,
Mm-hmm.
but just self-identification, as we now know, doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
There's lots of people who self-identify as being the opposite sex, for instance, right? That kind of thing. That doesn't mean that they are. And just a simple self-ID of I Christian doesn't have anything to do with your actual status as one.
Yes.
So the question just becomes this. If this fundamental inequality actually does exist, and it does, that women can vote in politicians that then send men off to war against men's will, right? Why is it that men should put up with enfranchisement from women to begin with?
I don't think
Why
they
should they even
should.
put up with it?
They
shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, they should not.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, I think women need to seek marriage just as much as men need to seek marriage and stuff. And then if you have a Christian household, the man will fight for the woman, and the woman will nurture the man and provide relief for him.
Wait, so Andrew, is the for the question that you pose, what do men get? Is it the vote? Is that the answer?
They get
That's
nothing.
not the okay.
Men are supposed to get social duties and virtue from the opposite sex. That is
I see. Okay.
And they should get that.
They get an equivalent social duty.
And
I
they
agree,
don't.
for instance, with Chair 3. There are ontological differences. The state of being between what men and women are itself are different. We're bigger, we're stronger, right? We don't have the same influx of hormones when it comes to rationality, so we tend to make more pragmatic decisions overall. Not now. This is not to say women are not logical. They are. Not to say women are not rational, they are. Not to say that women don't have agency, they do. All of those things are correct across the board. But it is still the case, they have influxes of hormones that men don't have to deal with. And one of the biggest stabilizers in a man's brain is testosterone, helps with rational decision making and the skills of rationality itself. Men are uniquely equipped to deal with the political experience, whereas women are not uniquely equipped to deal with it. Does that mean that women are always going to make bad choices politically? No. But the pattern seems to be that they have so far. I'm not even saying you have to disenfranchise women, though I would limit the voting pool significantly for men and women. What I am saying is this specifically. If men have to go sacrifice their lives on behalf of women, and that's the expectation that when the Titanic is going down, the men are the ones who get to stay on the ship and the women and children get the lifeboats, then damn it, they get the big piece of chicken. And what that means is socially, if they get the big piece of chicken, that they get virtuous women. Women are moving towards virtue in society and towards the reproduction of society itself in the great exchange of not hating men, but elevating their status in society as the protectors of all of it. And I think that that's a completely reasonable exchange that from the top down, we could start promoting, and it would make a huge difference in society for both of us.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Well said.
Well put. Well put, Andrew.